All eyes trained on that 1 p.m. meet at 7 Racecourse Road, where the cabinet will be meeting to discuss the inevitable re-elections in the national capital. The latest coming in from outside 7 RCR. Headlines today, correspondents getting you the latest reactions. But first up, as usual, would like to run you through the headlines. Countdown to Delhi election begins. President approves and sends LG's recommendation to dissolve Delhi Assembly to cabinet meeting scheduled for 1 p.m. at 7 Racecourse Road. And the politicking begins as well. Aam Aadmi Party says Arvind Kejriwal to remain chief ministerial candidate, BJP to refrain from projecting the face. Uneasy calm in Delhi's Trilokpuri and Bawana. Mahapanchayat ordered a ban on religious processions in Bawana, while in Trilokpuri, Hindus will lead the Muharram procession. Defence Minister Arun Jaitley promises a fair inquiry after army kills 2 civilians, mistaking them for terrorists. Greg Chappell tried to drive a wedge between Dravid and Sachin. It was the worst phase of Indian cricket, says Saurav Ganguly. New York's World Trade Center opens for work 13 years after the deadly 9/11 attacks. Publishing giant Condé Nast becomes the first to move into the skyscraper. Beginning this news bulletin from the latest that we're getting in from Jammu and Kashmir. Clashes have erupted in Nowgam area of Kashmir. Protests despite the curfew that has been imposed in 6 police station areas after 2 civilians were killed by the army firing on Monday. Well, the latest that we're getting in come from Nowgam, and I want Shuja ul Haq, my colleague, to talk us through this latest breaking news. Shuja, there were curfew which was clamped, but the latest that we are getting in is massive protests taking place. Can you talk us through the latest that you're picking up?
Well, that's right. Preeti, protests and clashes have erupted in Nowgam area. This is the area where yesterday 2 civilians were killed in army firing, and immediately after that there were reports of protests, and throughout the morning we've heard that strict restrictions were imposed by the administration and the police on the movement of people, but clashes have erupted. Police had to resort to tear gas shelling and lathi charge to disperse the people around. Similarly, there are restrictions in place parts of Srinagar city as well, which to be precise have to do with the sensitivities around Muharram procession. We've heard that at least 6 police stations are under extreme restrictions. Police and paramilitary forces have been deployed, and the situation continues to be very tense in Nowgam area, where this entire incident has taken place. Talking about this incident, the army has already issued orders for a court of inquiry, and the defence minister has also promised action. But on the ground, the politics also seem to be raging on it, with most political parties demanding that the government of India and the defence ministry should take certain steps in it. The National Conference yesterday only said that the Election Commission should order the state government to initiate an inquiry of its own and make sure that those who found guilty are brought to book.
You know, Shuja, all of this taking place in the backdrop of elections being announced in 5 phases in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. We are just about 10 days away from the first phase of polling. How does it marry into the situation, the political situation in Jammu and Kashmir at this point of time?
Well, that's precisely the point. This entire time is very, very sensitive and crucial for Jammu and Kashmir. We've just come out of a very devastating flood. There were sentiments that probably the elections should not have been taken place at this point of time. But since the Election Commission went ahead with the decision, now the entire situation remains very, very sensitive till the elections happen. And going by the kind of reactions that we are seeing already coming out from various political fronts, it is very obvious that this incident is only going ahead, will only go ahead to increase the entire tension around around this entire episode. But having said that, at this moment, the important point would be to make sure that some justice is done in this matter, so that at least.
Do we know the identity? Do we know the identity, Shuja? Can you take us through the identity of those 2 accidentally killed by the army?
Well, so far, both of them are locals, and so far the police has said that we haven't found any incriminating evidence against these people who were in this car. But the army yesterday said that they had tried to stop this vehicle, but because the vehicle did not stop, the army personnel, on the spot fired upon the vehicle. But that the entire episode is extremely under question, and it's only an investigation which will bring out the actual facts on this entire matter.
All right, appreciate you joining us, Shuja. We'll of course keep coming back to you for the latest updates coming in from Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you for joining us. Would like to shift focus back to the national capital now. All right, that's the latest that we're getting in. If Shuja is still with us, you want to stay on with this story that we are reporting on right now. The news that we're in fact breaking, that protests have in fact broken out in Nowgam area of Kashmir. This is the same area where those two civilians were accidentally killed by the army yesterday, something which even the defense minister Arun Jaitley has regretted. He has given out a statement that proper inquiry is going to take place. But as we report right now, that curfew that had been clamped down in 6 areas, in 6 police chowkis in Nowgam area, well, that has been violated, and massive protests right now raging on.